Hello, people. We're going to do something here. We're going to talk about the indictment today of Whitey Bulger. And I got Chicky with me because Chicky actually knows of the people involved in this and has a personal relationship with one of them.
Allegedly, right? Lee, allegedly.
I'm sorry. Allegedly murdered him with the sock and, well, whatever. We'll talk about that. It was a brutal murder, but there's a lot of other suspicious things in this. First of all, before we start talking about the indictment, okay, so we have Whitey Bulger. He's in the hospital. He's locked up in the hospital area of the federal penitentiary. Is that correct?
Not at this time. I mean, when he ends up getting killed?
No, before he got killed, he was in.
Yes, he was in another facility. Correct.
And then mysteriously, he is transferred over to a very brutal prison that's known for its violence.
Heavy hitter joint. Yep.
Yeah, heavy hitter joint. And a lot of people have come forward and said, a lot of wardens and stuff have come forward and said they don't understand why this was done. It sounds very suspicious, doesn't it, Chicky?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This was an 88-year-old man that was moved into a federal prison that was known for its violence. And 11 hours after he got there, he was murdered. And we're going to talk about that murder right now.
Yep.
Okay, so explain, today there was an indictment that came down, and who were the three people that were indicted for the murder of Whitey Bulger?
Okay, well, it actually was funny because we just talked about it on your show last night.
We did.
And obviously we didn't know the indictment was going to come down. And I started getting phone calls about 2 hours ago. My lawyer, a couple of people called me and they sent me some clippings. And probably about 4 hours ago, the indictment came down on three inmates. Two of them I know, one of them I know very well. The other kid I don't know, but the two kids I know very well are Freddy, Geas, Fotios, Freddy, Geas, and I just talked about him last night.
And this is Freddy, right? And this is Freddy right here.
That's Freddy. Yep, that's Freddy.
Okay. And the other guy was pronounced as
Pauly. Pauly DeCologero.
Okay, this is the other guy that was involved, and there was a third guy that was out of the prisons. He was out of prison, and he was on federal parole down in Florida. His name was Sean McKinnon.
Yeah, an Irish kid. Yep.
And they arrested him also while he was down there. And do you think that someone may have come forward and talked about the murder out of these three people?
Well, I know for a fact, like I said, it's allegedly at this point, but I know for a fact that the first two who showed, Freddy and Pauly, would have never ever done that. I don't know this other kid, but I guess
I don't want to talk about that. We don't know if they did that. You know?
No, I said they absolutely, in my opinion, would have never done that. The first two. I don't know the other kid.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about ratting. I thought you meant they would have never done the murder.
No. I didn't say that. I said allegedly they did it, but no. As far as talking, like you said, the first two you showed would have never done it.
And the third guy that's out, if I had to guess, if anybody was the one that, we'll see. I guess maybe we can't even say he did it until we know. You know.
No, but they also got to understand too. I don't know what took 4 years to charge them, over 4 years, but you got to also understand, Lee, that they have the BOP. I mean, the Bureau of Prisons in West Virginia. After actually has video footage of Pauly and Freddy coming out of Whitey Bulger's cell in the morning.
Yes, they did. And this is a picture that, now tell me about this picture right here of Freddy.
This picture was probably about 6 months before Whitey Bulger was murdered, when he was out in population. That's Freddy and some guys. I'm not sure the guy on the right, but on the left is Freddy kneeling down. That was one of the latest pictures of Freddy that I got, a personal picture I got. Like I said, about 6 months before Whitey Bulger's murder, because after Whitey Bulger's alleged murder, Freddy's been in the hole ever since. So obviously there could be no pictures.
And the thing with Freddy is he's actually quite a celebrity when it comes to murdering pretty popular people, because he was charged and serving life for the murder of Adolfo Bruno. Is that correct?
Yeah, the conspiracy to murder of Bruno. Correct.
So we're talking about a very popular gangster and then another very popular gangster. If he is guilty of the Whitey Bulger, at least he knows to take out the very famous guys, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how it works when you're in federal prison. I mean, if they do get a conviction of a murder, I don't know if he could face the death penalty, or I don't know if he could. Obviously, he's going to be in the hole a long time. But really, they'll probably send him to ADX Colorado in probably the worst conditions, because that's what they do with them guys when something like that happens. But essentially, if they put him out in population down the road, he's going to be the star. He'll be the star of the place. I mean,
exactly.
The one of the biggest rats in the country. He takes the guy out. He's going to be a hero anywhere he goes.
And see, this is the thing. You're talking about, you have vicious murderers out in population that did a lot worse than murdering a slime bag like Whitey Bulger.
Serial killers.
You know, you're talking about, people have to remember, Whitey Bulger literally strangled 2 women to death. He was not a nice man.
No.
I'm not saying that he deserved to die like that, but he was.
And the whole time he was committing murders, killing women, doing all kinds of street crimes. He was giving up the Italians in the north end of Boston, the Angiulo brothers, to the feds, and they allowed him to keep doing whatever he wanted, essentially.
Now, the second guy being charged in this, say his name, DeCologero?
Pauly DeCologero.
Oh, now the thing about him is his sentence was getting ready to run out. He
only had about 3-4 more years.
Right, and he was on a 25-year sentence.
Yep.
And they're saying that he was one of the ones swinging the lock in the sock.
Right. And a little fun, not a fun fact, but a little fact about Pauly DeCologero. He was John Gotti Jr.'s cellmate in Raybrook. And I mentioned it yesterday. My friend Brian Hoyle, who was with them in the pod, it was Pauly DeCologero, John Jr., and my friend Brian Hoyle were all together at Raybrook at one point.
You know, so here you got Bulger coming in.
Yep.
You got a guy that your buddy. He's a real guy. He's a man. He's, you know, they hate this Bulger guy. There's no doubt. They wanted him dead. Now,
right.
This the guy, you know, if somebody was going to do it, would this be the guy that you would send to do it if you wanted it done right?
Oh, I mean, this guy you wouldn't even have to send. This guy would he'd raise his hand in the crowd and say, "Listen, even if you don't ask me to go, I want to go do it." He'd volunteer. You wouldn't even have to send him. That's what kind of kid this was. And it's too bad because Pauly, you're right. Pauly only had about 4 years left, and he was getting out. He just served. He's coming off like a 20-year sentence, and he was on his way home. So this puts him in a whole nother realm now. So you know, like I said, I hope they beat it. But if not, you know, this kid ain't coming home ever.
Now, Pauly, he pretty much looked up to Freddy, didn't he?
Well, they had a mutual respect. Pauly was a serious guy in his own right on the street. He lived outside Boston, and in his own right, he was a serious guy, very well respected. I was with his brother Johnny DeCologero, who was essentially a serious kid too, when I was being held in Wyatt, Rhode Island, in a federal detention center for this case. Now that you know, I'm wrapping up. I was in with his brother Johnny, and we were very close. And that was Pauly's brother. We talked about his Pauly. We talked about Pauly and Freddy because at the time I was at Wyatt, his brother Johnny was asking me because the murder had happened and he knew his brother might get charged with it. So he was asking me, you know, hey, what kind of guy is Freddy? You know, because he didn't know Freddy. I said, oh, Freddy's, you know, solid as they come. Don't worry about Freddy, because he was concerned for his brother, you know. And I said, no, Freddy's good. And we talked about it a little while when we were walking the yard, a little exercise place in Wyatt. So yeah, I mean,
when you think about this whole thing with Whitey Bulger,
right?
Very, very famous guy. There's no doubt he went on the run for almost 2 decades,
right?
And when they found him, he still had $800,000 in the wall of his apartment. It's not like he was going to be given up anytime soon,
right?
And he actually was agreeing to admit that he was guilty if they let his girlfriend go or give her a life sentence. Is that correct?
That's correct. And she's still in prison right now. I think she's getting out in a couple of years. I think she got a 7 or 8 year sentence. So she's still in prison. She went to prison.
Okay. And so I guess you got to give that to Whitey right there. You wanted to, and the woman was willing to go on the run. They were out in California.
Yeah.
They were looking all over the world for these people.
Yep, they were in Cali, like in a little housing project, nothing fancy. You know, they lived very meek and mild. Meanwhile, inside the apartment, he had enough guns and ammunition to put together a small army.
And they arrested him going from the elevator to his car, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the FBI came up with a story that somebody had broken their storage container down in the cellar. So it got him off guard. And the guy like posed as like he was the manager of the building or something. And then when they brought him down in, like you said, the elevator, when he came out in the garage, they were all waiting for him.
Now they arrest him. They arrest him.
Yep.
Finally, they got him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they bring him back. I guess they originally bring him back to Boston.
Yes.
Okay, so they're bringing him back to Boston,
Right.
and then he's basically elderly and he has a lot of health issues,
Right.
and they put him in the hospital section of a prison,
Hmm.
of a federal prison. And suspiciously, he's released into population.
Right.
Now, do you think that maybe they were worried about Whitey knowing more stuff about the feds and the deals they made with him, and what else was going to come out? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good. That's a good. That's definitely a good argument. Yeah, I definitely. And I'll tell you another thing. How they put him in this West Virginia prison, and like I said, I don't know for sure, but the BOP is funny. I believe wholeheartedly that somebody might even inform people in West Virginia, the inmates, that this kid was coming in the night before. This guy was coming in the night before. Because usually they don't see it. A new guy just comes, but he came in at like 11 o'clock at night or 10, later at night when it was locked in. And then all of a sudden the next day when the cells unpop at whatever 7 o'clock in the morning, this is when this happens. It's just very, very funny.
And he was brutally beaten to death.
I mean, it wasn't something where whatever happened, whoever did it allegedly, it wasn't like they just went in and beat him up. They tortured him. They tortured him from what I understand from the reports, and then they slid his body underneath his bunk. So kind of like if anybody walked by, they couldn't really see the body. They slid it underneath the bunk after whatever they did, whoever it was.
Yeah. Now it sounds like the feds seem like they believe they have a solid case. But I think,
of course, yeah.
But the problem with the feds right now, I think they're still concerned about that lawsuit from Bulger's family, because it's awful suspicious, this whole thing.
Absolutely. And remember, Whitey Bulger's brother was the president of UMass College, like near my house, and he was very, I guess what they say. I mean, he had a retire because of his brother, but he was very political and he knew a lot of people, and he was supposed to be like the better of the brothers. He was the legal brother, so they say. But anyways, he was a big shot all over Massachusetts.
Yeah, and he was also before he got that job at the college, he was a very high-ranking member of the House, I believe. In that
yes,
area.
Yep, you're right.
So he was no joke.
No, he was a lot of big people were in his circle. A lot of big people were in his circle.
And they said there was a series on Showtime that they kind of based them off called Brotherhood, something like that.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure of that, but yeah,
it's about the politician and
right.
And it was about a couple of Irish brothers. One was a politician, one was a killer.
Yeah, it makes sense if that's what that makes sense then.
Yeah, but it's going to be fascinating to see what happens going forward. It's not fascinating for Freddy because he's going to continue to be locked up.
Oh yeah, who knows now? Maybe another 3 years before they actually get it all through court and everything, And now Pauly will be locked up as well. Like I had mentioned on your show last night before, we had no idea this was happening today. So it was so ironic that we just talked about this last night. And Pauly was switched to another prison. So I thought essentially he was off the radar, but I guess not. So they'll put him in the hole now because you go right in the hole when there's new charges.
I have a funny feeling that we're going to see Sean McKinnon not doing too much time.
Right.
I don't know why? Because
no, I know.
He's only been in charge. He's only been charged with conspiracy.
Well, his crimes, I don't think I believe, and maybe I read it wrong, but I don't believe he's charged with the murder. I think he's
no, he's not.
He's with lying to federal authorities.
Exactly. And who knows with the feds? They come up, they make deals with these guys.
Oh,
who knows
100%.
where Sean McKinnon is today? I mean,
exactly.
We're locked up.
You're right.
He could be in a motel or a hotel for all we know.
Exactly.
But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But this whole thing just seemed to come down at this weird time.
Right.
The fact that they let Sean McKinnon out, I'm sure that they've been down to Florida, or he's been with his parole officer and questioned.
Oh, they knew where he was. They had an inkling what was going on, and they were watching him. They were looking at, and like I said, it happened this morning, and they picked him up they picked him up sometime today in Florida. So they knew where he was. They were on top of it.
Make a prediction, Chicky. This is going to be recorded right here. What's going to happen?
My prediction, what I hope is going to happen, I hope they both beat the case, that something comes out. But my prediction is they're both going to get found. Unfortunately, they're both going to get found guilty, and they're going to get life sentences. I mean, they got life sentences, but they're going to add another murder to them. And I just hope I don't know if the death penalty is in play here. I hope it's not. But they're not going to be in population for at least the next 10 years. They might go to ADX Colorado, but as far as being in population, that ain't going to happen for at least the next 10 years.
And this guy Paul right here,
Yep.
his family's got to be devastated because he was due to get out, but he was in for,
3-4 years. He was on his way home. Yep.
But he was in for a very brutal murder himself.
Yeah. I mean, he was the kid on the street. You know, he was no joke. He was a real stand-up kid.
And he was charged with cutting a girl up who they thought was a witness to a murder.
Right. I'm not sure the basics on that. Yeah.
But you know what? He did his time for the murder, and he's getting to get out. And boom, it seems like they picked the right time. But up in Boston, they're known for that.
Yeah, and his brother Johnny did 20 years too. So it was both brothers. They did a lot of time.
Well, you know what? I'm going to drop this video, and Chicky, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, hey, it's from my back. That's why I reached out. It's our backyard, and like I said, we were just talking about last night. How ironic! All of a sudden today, the indictment comes down. Yeah,
and you know what? I'm glad I did. I tried to do this video on my own, and I sound like an asshole. Saying these names and stuff. I said it's a Geas, a Geis, and you told me neither one.
Well, you can't even say Chicky. It's Chucky, Checky, every other thing. So I can't imagine them names.
Chicky. It took me a month, but you're no more cheeky for you.
I got it.
But it's just very interesting, and I'm looking forward to dropping this video, and I hope
you
enjoy it.
You'll be the first one dropping it. I guarantee nobody will even think of put it out. It's just coming in the news tonight, so you were the first one to drop it. And like I said, with this case, we can go back at another time and talk as the case progresses, because it's going to get really, it's going to get crazy, you know, when it finally happens and they actually, you know, whatever happens, it's going to be very interesting.
Yes, it is. Well, listen, my man, don't jump out. I'm going to end this.
Okay.
But then we'll talk. But thank you so much. Please hit the like button, people. Thank you so much. I hope that you enjoy this information. And we have a little more inside information because Chicky actually knew Freddy. So, you know, and Chicky, whenever you see me say first names, I don't deal with the last name.
Okay. So
Freddy and Paul and Sean McKinnon. I could say Sean McKinnon. You know, I'm a Scottishman. I have no trouble saying that. But thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Chicky. And I'll drop this, and we'll see what everybody has to say. Please give us your opinion underneath this video, people. Let us know what you think. How suspicious is this? That Whitey Bulger was taken from the hospital, an 88-year-old man who was ill and sick, and put into one of the toughest federal prisons. Something's really weird, but we'll see. Thank you, people. Hit the like, and we do appreciate it.